Hey friends, it's me Brooklyn, the friendly blogger, and welcome to episode 1 of Saucy Sundayz. Now you're probably wondering, what is Saucy Sundayz? It's going to be a fun opportunity for you and I to get together, get in the kitchen, wearing our chill, relaxed clothes, maybe even our PJs, and we're going to try our hand at making traditional Latin dishes. It can be dishes from Brazil, Cuba, Mexico, Colombia, you name it, we're going to do it and we're going to have so much fun. Now, of course, the nerd in me will not cook without sprinkling in just a little bit of that food history. So we're going to learn stuff about ingredients, and we're also going to talk about where the origin of each dish comes from. But most of all, and most importantly, it's going to be very hands-on. So you're going to be moving with me. We're going to be over here. We're going to be over there. We're going to be back. We're going to be forth, and we're going to have so much fun. So come on and let's make our first dish. All right, friends. So what are we making today? Today, you and I are going to be making Sancocho de Pescado con leche de coco. What does that mean? We are going to be making a fish stew with a little bit of coconut milk. And let me tell you, I have had this dish many times here in Colombia, and it is so rich. It is so good. I mean, my mouth is drooling or watering just thinking about it. But I promised you that I was going to sprinkle in a little food history. So here we go. Where did Sancocho de Pescado come from? When I first started to research, I learned that it was mostly a Colombian coastal dish. So then it got me thinking, okay, based on my experience, most Colombian coastal dishes kind of sort of have an African influence to it because of the slave trade. If you know anything about Cartagena, you know that it was one of the major ports in Colombia for the slave trades when the Spaniards were here colonizing. So I started to do even more digging, and finally, after lots of research, and when I tell you I mean lots of research, I feel like I'm back in college, I learned that Sancocho de Pescado actually originates from the Canary Islands. Right? Who thought? I totally would have thought it originated here. But it's actually Canary Islands. And of course, like I said, you mix in the slaves, you mix in the Spanish colonizers, and together it was brought to the Americas. And so we have amazing restaurants like Basilea's, where she makes my favorite Sancocho de Pescado. And then of course, there's also another restaurant in Cartagena that I really, really love. And I'll put all those details below, because if you're going to travel, I want you to try it. So now that we got the food history out the way a little bit, it's going to be time to talk about ingredients. I'm going to list all the ingredients below so that you can kind of create this dish at home. But please note that when I was doing my research for this recipe, I actually found several that I really liked. And so what you're going to see today is a culmination of all those recipes. And then of course I'm modifying it because it's just me in my apartment here in Cali, and I don't know what I'm going to do with a big old pot of fish stew. So let's get into the ingredients. Come on. All right, and so these are the ingredients that we are going to be using for this specific recipe. I've got plantains here, got my yuca. I only did a couple of potatoes because we already got the starch from the yuca and the starch from the plantains. This is my fish. Today we are using barge or catfish. I definitely have a lot of catfish going on, but this recipe calls for about 10 cups of fish stock, and I don't have that. We're gonna make our own stock, so I've got a lot of extra fish for extra flavor. And then of course, what you will find when you eat this dish is some of the fish is actually fried. So not only do you have fish in the stew, but you also have like maybe quote unquote garnish that you can eat, which is a fried piece of fish. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I just wanted to make sure I had enough fish. And of course, we're going to be using catfish just because it's more economical for me as a solo traveler. And plus, I love catfish, so I don't see anything wrong with a little bit of a bottom feeder. You've got some of the aromatics. I've got some thyme. I've got some, I forgot the name of this in Spanish, but I got some spice. I also am going to be using some cumin, and I've got some bell peppers, a tomato, garlic, cilantro, and believe it or not, this big old thing, yes, this huge giant thing is your scallions. And so these are all of our ingredients that we're going to use. Like I said, I've got some other spices as well, and I'm going to put all of this stuff in the details below. Hey friends, so I also wanted to mention that I'm doing this with my windows open. As you can see, you're going to be hearing cars going across the road. See? Kids playing, yelling and screaming. But guess what? That's okay. Today is Sunday. And like I said, I want every Sunday, every episode of this to be chill, a little bit of a wind down. And again, it's going to be hands-on as well. So let's get cooking. All right, so I've got my spring onions, green onions here. I did get my groceries delivered, and so these don't look as beautiful as I would have liked them to, but hey, we're gonna work with what we got. So I'm gonna go ahead and just chop those up right here on the counter. Yeah, I know, angle. Sorry guys, we're just having a chill Sunday. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop this up. Again, I'm gonna put everything as far as like measurements and stuff that you need on the bottom, so don't worry. Don't be like, how much, Brooklyn? Oh my gosh, tell me. Don't worry, I got you. So we're gonna cut those up. And again, I modified this because it is just me. And I don't want to be stuck with a bunch of soup because I've only got maybe 3 more weeks here in Cali. So I want some little more of the green. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this in as well. I think this is all of the green onions that I specifically need for this recipe. I'm going to go ahead and throw them in the pot right now because I do have a pot of water simmering, and we're also going to add some garlic in there and all my spices. Okay, so a lot of people do this differently. Some people, you know, get a pot of boiling water first and put everything in there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some oil to a pan, because what I like to do anytime I make soups, whether that's a soup stew at home or anywhere, I like to saute, you know, some of my aromatics first. So we're going to throw the onions in here, the garlic in here. We're actually going to also throw the catfish pieces in here as well, because again, I'm making my stock from scratch and I want to get those flavors to just like marry and like, you know, be all good before we add in the water, the yuca and all that stuff. So let's go over here and season our catfish really quick. Actually, what we're going to do is we are going to throw our onions in here first. There we go. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Lost some onions. Onions are being lost. Poor little onions. All right, there we go. You can hear it sizzle just a little bit. You can see it. We're going to add our garlic in there in a minute. All right, so we've got our minced garlic. I'm just going to go ahead and grab those, and we are going to go over to the pot and throw those in there. Nice, nice, nice. And now we are going to put some salt, a little bit of pepper, and some other spices on this catfish and get that in the pot too. Okay, so I've got my catfish here. I'm going to season it with a little bit of salt, so that's what I'm going to do. Salt, salt, just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. Got that seasoned on both sides. And don't worry, we're not going to overcook this because we are just wanting the fish flavor so that we can make our little bit of a fish stock. And then I'm going to take it out before it overcooks because we also have to cook the yuca. This is pepper, you guys. Got to cook the yuca. And we also have to cook the potatoes, cook the plantain. So again, I just really want this to be sauteed in the pan first just to get that flavor going. And then also remember, I am not a trained chef, okay? I just love to cook and I love to eat, and we're just gonna do it together. So let's get this. All right, so now I'm ready to get my catfish in there, and I'm just gonna make sure it's like touching the bottom of the pan. You hear the sizzle? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear the sizzle. There we go. And I'm just going to throw these on the top. There we go. So that's what it looks like now. Again, some people do their recipes different. When I was researching this, they had water in here at this point, like right now. And I don't want to do that yet. I just want to just kind of get my fish a little bit brown, but of course I don't want to overcook it, so I'm just going to leave that in here for just a couple minutes, and then I'm going to add my other spices and then water, and then it'll cook, or simmer I should say, for about 40 minutes. So let me get all the other stuff ready. All right, so we're at the pretty pot. I put in the spices that needed to be in there, and so again, we're just going to let this, you know, do its thing for a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to add some water in it and let it simmer so that we can get that quote unquote stock going. But I also wanted to remind you guys that you should always be washing your hands, especially because we're dealing with fish. We don't want any cross contamination going. I've got a wash station, so if you see that my hands are a little bit ashy, don't be upset with me. Don't make fun of me. It's because I'm trying to have a clean kitchen. Okay, so I realized that my head is cut off just because of the phone stand that I have, so bear with me please. This next part, we are going to prepare our plantain as our fish is being cooked in the pot right now. Like I said, I wanted just to wait a couple more minutes and then I'm going to add some water in it. But by the time I'm done cutting my plantain up into pieces, it'll be time to add the water. And again, I'm modifying this recipe just because it's me. So I'm not going to use all of these plantains. I'll save this for the next Saucy Sunday because we are going to make something with plantains. So I'm just going to cut up one, and yeah, so watch me cut this. I did a cooking class in Cartagena a couple weeks ago, and this is exactly how the instructor taught me how to cut a plantain. So watch this. They said to go down, right, make a slice there, make a slice there, make another slice there, and then I'm going to cut in half. And then I don't know if this is a thing, so please comment below and let me know, but he was basically saying if you go like this, it helps loosen up the plantain and the skin. I don't know if that's a thing or he was just telling me that. But yeah, that's what he said. Now I am peeling this with my hand. I'm not using the knife to pull it because I actually cut my finger the last time I made something with plantains. So yes, this is going to be a little bit more labor intensive using my hand to open this up, but I really don't want to cut my finger again. So I'm just going to do this animal style, you know. Rip it, rip it, rip it, rip it. And as you can see, it really is coming off easy. Okay, so it really isn't that hard. It's just, like I said, it's gonna take a little bit longer, but we're not going anywhere. It's Sunday. But you know what? Fun fact that you probably didn't know, Colombia, oops, that's fine. Colombia actually had a massacre called the United Fruits Massacre in 1929, I think, over bananas. Can you believe that? I mean, I will probably tell you more about this later because I am going to do a Food Find Friday on plantains and bananas. But really quick, it seems like, or from what I researched and read, the workers who were working the bananas, they kind of just got fed up, you know, just like anybody who's being overworked and underpaid. They were pretty much fed up and they were like, hey, we don't need this. And there was like this uprising, and again, it was a whole massacre. A lot of people died. Colombian government was being shady. But then again, which government isn't shady? So yeah, just a little fun fact. And like I said, I'll show you or tell you about this next time when we cook something. Okay, so I am basically done peeling my plantain. Again, you could do this with a knife to make it a lot easier, but I didn't want to cut myself. So I'm perfectly okay with this size chunks, but I have to also think about my potatoes and my yuca. So one thing about cooking soups, stews, or whatever, or even just boiling something, you want to make sure that everything is uniform in size because you want everything to cook at the same time. And have the same doneness. There we go. You want everything to have the same doneness during the same exact time. So I'm actually going to cut these a little smaller to match sort of the potatoes. So I think having this chunk on my inside my soup is going to be fine for me. All right, so now that I have my plantains cut into the size that I want them to, I actually just added water to the pot, so I'll show you that in just a minute, but I want to first prepare my potatoes. I already washed them, so I'm just going to cut them in half. Again, some of the recipes that I saw had a lot more potatoes in this, but because I'm already got the starch from the plantain, I've got the starch from the yuca, I just wanted, I didn't want any more potatoes, so I modified that. And again, I just wanted them to be uniform in size, as you can see. This is going to be a little bit more laborious for me to cut. I have never cut a yuca in my life, so I got to clean it first, wash it off, and then I'll cut it. And again, I'll try my best to get them about this size. So yeah, give me a moment to wash this and pray that I don't cut my finger off. I'm cutting this yuca.